Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Happy Thursday, happy Friday. The weekend is right ahead of us. Okay, today is part 3 of the trilogy on CCP politics and Xi Jinping's uh, power outage, his downfall, right? Start of his downfall. All right. So in the last 2 live streams, we talked about how vice chairman of the CMC, Zhang Youxia, is likely the person who's controlling the Chinese PLA. And then in the last live stream, which was Tuesday, we talk about all the signs, a series of events indicating Xi Jinping might have lost a significant part of his power. Today, we'll talk about, well, who will succeed him? So it's part 3. Let's get started. I have 3 videos that I prepared for you and some slides. Let's get started. Do I have my videos organized? Yes, I do. Okay. So, after Xi Jinping came to power, um, the most significant thing he did within the party was dismantling the succession system established by Deng Xiaoping. At the 19th Party Congress, he amended the party constitution, and later he also changed the national constitution, leading to the establishment of a political system where he could potentially rule for life. However, things start to change after the third plenum in July. There has been a clear indication, or there have been indications that he has lost some of his authorities. Like I said, I discussed the power shift in my last 2 live streams. You can watch them if you haven't. Now, Xi Jinping is forced to have a succession plan. So today we'll discuss who is most likely to emerge as the next Chinese leader to succeed Xi Jinping. In the past few days, reports suggest that China has now entered a, quote, Li Qiang moment in Zhongnanhai, which is the CCP headquarters or the leadership compound. And also a former crown prince, Hu Chunhua, has become active again. I should say, people call him the deposed crown prince, someone who has lost favor with the king. So he has been active again. So these their recent activities signal the beginning of a dynastic change in China. So we'll first discuss the likely successor, and then we'll talk about the dark horse candidate. And then we'll compare the two. All right, so well, actually, I originally want to talk about the role the other Politburo Standing Committee members play, but I don't think we'll have time. So, and I'll just, quickly mention that. I'll quickly talk about Cai Qi at the end, but they're not really that relevant at this point. These two, I think, are the most likely successor. So the first one is the likely successor. And in theory, the next leader should come from the 7-person Politburo Standing Committee, right? So if Xi Jinping steps down due to health reasons or other catastrophes, I do have I'll show you the picture later. So according to CCP's own rule, the second in line in the Politburo Standing Committee is Premier Li Qiang. So he's likely to take over as the next leader. However, let me show his picture. So there he is. But he is known as the weakest premier in the history of the CCP. All of his deputies were appointed by Xi Jinping. His ministers and heads of various commissions and committees were all personally selected by Xi Jinping. So since taking over as the head of the State Council, which is the government body, right, Li Qiang has become Xi Jinping's secretary instead of the head of the government. However, things have changed. Last week, from October 12th to 14th, Li Qiang visited Vietnam. The high-level reception that he received in Vietnam was comparable to the one Xi Jinping received last year during his state visit, including a red carpet and the 21-gun salute. On October 12th, Li Qiang first met with the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, To Lam, followed by a meeting with the Prime Minister, Phan Minh Chinh, on the second day. Now, this sequence was special, as typically the premier would first meet with his counterpart, the Prime Minister, then to be received by the big boss, the party secretary, as a symbolic courtesy, right? It was more of a courtesy meeting. This arrangement, the fact that Li Qiang was first met with the party secretary, the VCP leader, then the prime minister, almost indicates that he was given the same courtesy and treatment as the party leader as the CCP party leader, right? The fact that he was received first by the VCP leader indicates that his status was viewed as the same as Xi Jinping. According to Vietnam news agency, during the talks, To Lam and Li Qiang agreed to maintain high-level exchanges and regular interactions at all levels. They want to promote efficient development of diplomatic channels, as well as advance cooperation in areas like national defense and security. Both expressed their intent to enhance the quality and efficiency of economic and trade cooperation. They want to strengthen collaboration between the Belt and Road Initiative from China and Vietnam's two corridors, One Belt framework. And they also reached a consensus on the importance of maintaining peace and stability in the South China Sea. Now, all of the topics that were covered in their meeting suggests that Li Qiang was not just playing a role of a premier. He met with the VCP leader as if he was the CCP leader, addressing topics such as foreign policy, national defense, and territorial disputes. Notably, the two sides also briefed, this is according to their press release, two sides also briefed each other on their respective party and national situations. This is interesting because To Lam just visited Beijing in August, less than 2 months ago, right? Shortly after he rose to be the VCP leader after his predecessor, Yuan Fuchuan, died. So what party and national developments needed to be updated within this short period of time? Was it the power shift within the CCP? And also, if you think about it, China was To Lam's first international trip after assuming the leadership role in Vietnam. So the question is, did Li Qiang return the courtesy by first visiting Vietnam after rising to power? Because, the two leaders just met less than 2 months ago. Then what's the urgency for Li Qiang to visit Vietnam again, other than, notifying your communist little brother that, we have a new boss? Well, further evidence can be found in another way. Right before Li Qiang's trip to Vietnam from October 9th to the 12th, a VCP delegation led by a Politburo member and executive secretary of Central Committee's Secretariat, this is from the Vietnam side, his name is Le Quang Ton. Le Quang Ton. I'm trying to pronounce it right. So this Vietnamese official visited Beijing, and he was received by Xi Jinping. Now, Xinhua news agency mentioned Xi Jinping's name in the headline of the news, but the Vietnam news agency's headline didn't mention Xi Jinping. It just said Vietnamese Communist Party delegation pays a working visit to China. All right, that's interesting. So up to this point, we know Xi Jinping's leadership or the spotlight of his leadership has never been shared with other officials. So Li Qiang's prominent visit to Vietnam suggests that his status is no longer the same as before. So, what does that mean, right? He was the number 2 in the party. So if his status has been elevated, what could that be? Mr. Du Wen, who I will introduce later, you will see his video, you'll see his face and him talking. He is the former head of a legal counsel to Hu Chunhua. He said in a recent interview that Li Qiang has always advocated for a large-scale stimulus program rather than targeted policies when it comes to economic rescue ideas. And Li's basic economic logic is that only through large-scale stimulus can there be enough money to truly invigorate the economy. And Li believes that targeted policies only lead to unfair resource distribution and won't be able to stimulate the economy. So when you put that into perspective, it seems that Li has convinced Xi Jinping to change the previous policy of so-called targeted measures, given the recent stimulus plans that we've seen that have been rolled out in China. So it is said, according to Mr. Du, it's said that right now it is the Li Qiang moment in Zhongnanhai. And what Li Qiang says carries a lot of weight. So let's keep our eyes on Li Qiang, because he is very likely to be the successor to Xi Jinping. However, with that said, I want to talk about the next person who I think is more interesting and deserves more attention from us because he is the black horse candidate. And let's see, who is he? Well, he is the former crown prince, Hu Chunhua, former vice premier. His current role is this vice chairman, a second vice chairman of CPPCC, and before that he was the vice premier under Li Qiang. Now he belongs to the Youth League faction, or the Hu Jintao faction, or you could say the reformist faction. Hu Jintao was his mentor, and Hu Jintao appointed him. He's Hu Jintao's appointed heir to succeed Xi Jinping after Xi's second term at the 20th Party Congress. However, we know that didn't happen. Not only who didn't succeed Xi Jinping, he was even excluded from the Politburo. His exclusion from the Politburo was so shocking to his mentor Hu Jintao that it even sparked the drama at the 20th Party Congress, in which Hu was forcibly escorted out by Xi Jinping's bodyguard. Hu Chunhua is known to be extremely low-key since then. He has been putting on his best effort not to offend Xi Jinping. However, he's been active lately. I'll explain how he's active later. But I think he's the black horse who can make a lot of changes in China, in the political scene, within the CCP. And people should pay attention to him. And I think right now he's being underestimated because he's not in the Politburo. But I don't think that matters so much, because I'll give you the historical anecdote in which the underdog, someone who's not, like Deng Xiaoping was not even in the Politburo, right? His rank was not as high as Hua Guofeng, but he overthrew Hua Guofeng. All right, so now his former legal counsel, Mr. Du Wen, who now lives in Belgium, offered some very interesting insight on what had happened before Hu Jintao was removed at the 20th Party Congress. And it all centered around Hu Chunhua, our protagonist. So let me play you a video clip in which Mr. Du Mr. Hu's former legal counsel, he described what had based on his understanding, what had happened before Hu Jintao was removed. So let me play the video, clip number 3. I hope this is the right one. Okay, hold on. Let me start from the beginning. Okay, let's go.
在这个问题上，当时其实胡春华本身他认为自己是要接班的，那么但是他生不逢时啊，他正好赶上习近平的第3任期嘛。对，而且这个集权化的倾向是非常明显的，习近平的这个核心地位在进一步被强化，而且党内已经是几乎没有与他进行抗衡的任何势力。对，在这种情况下，但是胡春华他认为自己还有希望，他至少要接一个政协委主席、政治局常委，这个是完全有可能的。他太年轻了。对，你想当时他是63年的嘛，多年轻啊！就是这么年轻的一个人，他又那么富有政治抱负。他一定要给自己留下希望，但是在酝酿的时候，一开始的时候，据说主席他酝酿的时候是有胡春华的，那么等到最后阶段是突然他被划掉了，他自己也感到万分错愕。不仅是他自己，是胡锦涛，是李克强，他等整个说是所谓的团派也好，就是这个中共的改革派也好，都感到非常的震惊和错愕。他们在一个相当于造成了一个政治欺骗一样，所有人都傻眼了。但是对这种情况，大家没办法。只能是接受承受，以至于最后说把胡锦涛从会场中给架出去，对这个问题。
Okay, so that's the background information, right? About Hu Chunhua. So let's talk a little bit about who Hu Chunhua is. Now, who is who? Let me just put his picture on the screen so you know who I'm talking about. He was, according to Mr. Du, he was a young prodigy. He was the top scorer. He was number 1. He got the highest score in the National College entrance exam in his county in Hubei, and was admitted to Beijing University. He isn't good at public speaking, but is a great thinker and a good writer. And he excels in strategizing. He has had a political aspiration and desire to succeed in politics from a young age. After graduation from college, according to Hu himself, all the big central state organizations were eager to recruit him, and his school and the organization department of the CCP asked him where he wanted to work, and they would help him to make it happen. He could have gone to any central SOEs or any agencies that he wanted to work. But his reply was very surprising. He replied that he wanted to go to the most challenging place, to the place where the country and the people needed him the most. So he chose Tibet. And in a private conversation, he later explained why he chose Tibet. He said, "With my ordinary background, I have no advantage over others if I go work at a government agency. My classmates from college all went there. There were too many of them. But if I go to Tibet, I'd be able to mature politically and move up the ranks quickly." So his decision to go to Tibet actually at the time made it headline news in state media. And here's a there's a picture of him. This was Hu Chunhua when he was young, and here was the headline news on Guangming Daily that said Hu Chunhua, the graduate, decided to go work in Tibet. Anyways, so that was him. Once in Tibet, however, he worked his way up, and Mr. Du. Now let me play the second video in which Mr. Du explained how his career path. So here we go. Let me start from the beginning. Oh, not this one. Sorry. Okay, so this is the video. Okay, here we go.
而他到了西藏以后呢，他并不是说像人们所想象那样，说是去了基层，扎根基层，与人民群众打成一片，是吧？啊，这个认真去工作，不是这样的，他是想办法去跟领导们结交，去攀附。比如说，他把胡锦涛、把陈奎元、把书记们都伺候的维护的非常好。他当时从共青团中央之后到河北，就基本上已经确定了，他要走几个省，这么年轻，未来是中共的接班人。
对，
他就一切都围绕着这个目标来的。而到了最后临门一脚的时候了，他不甘心呀。试想，谁甘心呢？他是正常的人呐。但是在当时这个情况下，你想呀，习近平的这个独裁这种倾向这么明显的情况下，而且这胡春华被公认的是第6代的领导接班人之一，那他就眼中钉肉中刺呀。孙政才也钉折了，那么周围的这些所谓的年轻的这些也都在迅速的在这个抓的抓，是吧？哈，这个消失的消失，淡出的淡出，他怎么办的问题？胡春华这个时候就发挥他的优势了，他一直这个人他很隐忍，很低调，他也会很会溜须拍马屁，他把自己这个隐忍低调溜须拍马发挥到了极致，保住了命。但是在最后时刻呢，也正是由于如此，据说习近平不用他的理由也很明确，他曾经给胡锦涛等人解释过这个问题，就是说他认为胡春华太庸碌了，在他既往的执政体现中，他是没有犯什么错误，但是他很平庸，他也没有任何突出的政绩。就他的政绩而言，他再也留在政治局委员或进政治局常委来说，似乎是能力不足的。不利于未来的各个风险性、挑战性更高的工作，是以这个为由，没有对他采用更激烈的一个更好的使用，提拔一步的问题。这也是胡春华的失策之处，他过于保守，过于低调，导致最后使他就说强烈的权力意志他不具备，那么表现欲望他也不具备，他成也低调，败也低调，所以他失败于失败于。
Okay. I found that to be very fascinating because, if you think about, I mean, how Hu has been, he has aspired to become a politician since a young age, and he's very focused on that. He even, designed his career to start in the most difficult part of the country. I mean, the most challenging job, and yet he is perceived to be mediocre. I think actually that showed his strength, because if he had been a super performer within the CCP system, it could be more detrimental. I think the fact that he was perceived by Xi Jinping as mediocre actually showed his strength, because real superstars, real talented people will not do well in China. They will be the subject of jealousy, or it would be very more dangerous for them. So actually, I think I think this insight that Mr. Du offered actually showed us the strength that Hu Chunhua has displayed. He's actually like how he's very strategic, shall we say. So now this guy decided, the sidelined or the deposed crown prince seems to want to return to limelight. He made a high-profile inspection tour of Inner Mongolia in September. Inner Mongolia was one of it was his old province. He was the party secretary in Inner Mongolia. So he went there, and the local media, Inner Mongolia Daily, reported on that, and all the top leaders of the party, of the government, and then the PCCPP paid a courtesy visit to Hu. And the use of the term courtesy visit is significant. This visit is layered with multiple sensitivities. First, Hu Chunhua is a former crown prince promoted by one of Xi Jinping's political enemy, right? He was the picked heir to Xi Jinping by Hu Jintao. And judging by how Hu Jintao was treated at the 20th Party Congress and the sudden death of the other key member of the faction, Li Qiang, you would think how low key Hu Chunhua must have been in order to survive. And second, as the deposed crown prince returning to visit a place where he once governed, it evoked a sentiment that pretty much says, I'm back, right? Which is somewhat taboo. Why is he send a message to say, I'm back? Third, Hu Chunhua is the second-ranked vice chairman of the National Committee of the CPPCC. The fact that all top leaders in the province in Inner Mongolia paid him a courtesy visit indicates that they treated him with the same respect reserved only for the top leader, someone like Xi Jinping. And this is another taboo. And there's a fourth layer of abnormality. That is, Hu Chunhua returned to Beijing without any consequences. When we consider all these events together, the grand return of a deposed crown prince is similar to the high-profile reception of the weakest premier received in Vietnam. They're very similar. And then that's not it. On October 8th, the first day people returned from the national holiday, Chinese state media published an article written by Hu Chunhua. The article in 5 sections explained how to maintain the CCP's leadership over the CPPCC. At the beginning of each major section, it goes something like, General Secretary Xi Jinping emphasized blah, blah, blah. And followed by an explanation of how to understand and implement Xi Jinping's words. This report also appeared peculiar because Hu Chunhua is only a vice chairman of the CPPCC. He's not the chairman. So judging from the article, it seems like he's speaking on behalf of the CPPCC, which is not the right protocol. So what does it mean for the chairman, who is Wang Huning? Right? And secondly, in the article, Hu Chunhua repeatedly references Xi Jinping's words, citing him 5 times in succession. It seems that he was pledging his loyalty to Xi Jinping. And people are like, why is he so prominently demonstrating his loyalty so publicly? Here's Mr. Du's explanation about his former boss's high-profile activities. And let me play this video clip. I think it's this one.
就是大家您也看到，就是说，在中全会以后，习近平有萌生退位的想法。
Let me make this bigger, so that you can read this better. Okay, here we go.
而现在呢，就是大家您也看到，就是说，在中全会以后，习近平有萌生退位的想法。他有跟这个政治就是排座做分组过嘛，对，他也有跟团派，也有跟这些老人们之间有一个协调。对，大家就是他也在退。也在妥协，妥协怎么办呢？这个时候就是说，人们还是希望他能，就是郭主编说这个，希望他能够恢复结束领导干部终身制，恢复中共的接班人制度，对，以避免就是在他出事以后，他突然出事以后，那么死掉以后，或者是突然这个出严重事件以后，那么谁来接班的问题，避免出现青黄不接，共产党突然倒塌的问题。这个时候，胡春华作为一个曾经的一个储君。他就有机会嘛，或者说有一丝希望嘛。那么他以前的时候他过于低调，现在呢他想高调不起来了，怎么办？就抓住一切可能的机会，尽可能的来表现自己，就是在政治上使自己有存在感，让自己不要淡出这个核心圈子。虽然他已经很边缘了，对，但是他不甘心啊，对于是他要不停的往前走，不停的尽可能的来展露自己。就像刚才郭军分析的这个，就是李冰先生分析的这个，就是他写这个文章，他的格式问题，他看上去是在把习近平放在前头，实际上不是的，实际上他是在通过以抬举习近平的方式给自己来提高政治存在感，他是通过习近平来拉自己。对，我感觉是这样。
Okay, so I agree with his analysis, and I think that's very insightful. So now let's talk about, oh, by the way, Mr. Du Wen, the man who just spoke that you saw, he was accused of being involved in a public bribery case within the Inner Mongolian government. He was the legal counsel, the chief legal counsel in the government. And Mr. Du said that his case was a complete political persecution case. He said the investigators, he was a lawyer, the investigators who investigated the bribery case were all locked up. And he said some higher up authorities wanted him to implicate Hu Chunhua, who was his boss at the time, for the purpose of bringing Hu down. But Mr. Du said that he's a Christian and he remained truthful. And he didn't. So therefore, he was sentenced to 12 years and 8 months in prison. So he was released from prison in January of 2023, but remained under surveillance. And he and his family fled to Belgium, and that's where he's living now. So his experience shows you how dark CCP politics is, and actually how many people wanted to take down Hu Chunhua before he was the crown prince, or while he was the crown prince within the party. So now let's compare Li Qiang and Hu Chunhua. They both have strength and weaknesses. Now, Li's strength is that he currently ranks number 2 in the party. So he is, by definition, the default successor if they can't find anyone else. However, he doesn't have any party elders supporting him because he doesn't have central government experiences, right? He came from Shanghai and he has been a regional leader, and he was parachuted into Beijing and became the premier. So he was the first premier that China ever had without any prior central government experience. So his base in Beijing, his connections in Beijing are very limited. So his big, and Hu Chunhua, on the other hand, has been groomed to be the 6th leader, and his career path span from local to central government. He was previously vice premier. And plus, he has party elders' support, and the biggest supporter is his mentor, Hu Jintao. Who's handicapped is that he's not even in the Politburo. He's not a Politburo member. So if you want to be a top leader, you have to be at least a Politburo member, ideally a Politburo standing committee member. And the other thing, the other difference between them is Li Qiang belongs to the Xi Jinping faction, and he obviously has the support of Xi Jinping, right? And Xi Jinping will want to pick someone who would listen to him. And Hu Chunhua probably doesn't have Xi Jinping's support, but he has the support of all those who oppose Xi Jinping. And this is also significant. Now, who's only handicapped is Xi Jinping. If Xi Jinping is nice to him, he has a better chance than Li Qiang to succeed. That's why he published the article to sing praises to Xi Jinping. People also say history may repeat itself because after Mao Zedong died, Hua Guofeng was Mao's chosen successor and held all the titles he could get. He was the premier, he was the party, he was the chairman of the CMC, the chairman of the party. He's the only party leader who also held the position of the government, the premier. So he held 4 titles, the president of China, of course. So he held 4 titles. He helped Deng Xiaoping to get rid of Madame Mao. But guess what? Deng Xiaoping eventually overthrew him. Regardless how many titles, right? Deng Xiaoping didn't have as many titles, but Deng Xiaoping had support within the party. So he overthrew Hua. So people say that Li Qiang may very well be the interim successor, playing a role of transition. But who may be the real leader after him if he got enough support? And in terms of who has the vision to dismantle the party and lead China into a new direction, I don't know them well enough, but if I must pick one, I would say Hu Chunhua is more capable of doing that, because after having persevered for so long and being abused and kicked around and all his life, this man may come out with something that he has always wanted to do since childhood, to do something right for China. I don't know. I'm just saying this. If I have to pick between the two, I don't think Li Qiang would do much, because he will forever be a weak leader operating in Xi Jinping's shadow. So, so that's all I have. Now let's talk about Cai Qi quickly. Cai Qi must have been dreaming for a long time to be the top leader. And over the past year or more, he has gained more titles to lead various committees than Li Qiang. He's had more power than Li Qiang, as he controls the general office of the party's central committee and the propaganda apparatus. He is unlikely to accept Li Qiang as his superior, so he will engage in an internal competition within the Xi Jinping faction to fight with Li Qiang. But I think in the scheme of things, Li Qiang probably will win, because the guy is more well-liked and more balanced, who seems to be more capable of saving the economy than Cai Qi. So, but if people say Cai Qi will not accept Li Qiang as his boss, but may accept Hu Chunhua as his leader, because Hu has more support and more experience than him. So people generally don't believe that Cai Qi has a chance to be the next leader, because he's too close to Xi Jinping, and that has become his biggest liability now. So that's all for tonight. Let's do a survey to see what people think. Who do you think is more likely to be the next leader to succeed Xi Jinping? Is it Li Qiang or Hu Chunhua? I don't offer a third option, just one or two. If I offer a third option, it's going to be, I don't know. I don't have enough information to know, which probably is what people think, what the majority of people thinks. But let's just not include that as an option. I'm just curious to see what you guys think. Who do you think is more likely? Who will win in this competition? Let's see what people will say. So Chris, can you post the poll? I will see. Someone said, I vote Tigger. Tigger. All right, that's all. While you vote, I have some colorful stickers to address, to thank. Sir Humphrey. Hi, Lei. Hi, everyone working, but looking forward to the presentation and questions. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Hope you can join us some other time. Ptolemy, Salamanca. Lei, with the prophecy foretelling the fall of the Red Dynasty looking more likely to be true, will Xi's successor have only anarchy to lead when they take over? I think Xi's successor, I think if it's Li Qiang, the premier, I don't think it will be any different from Xi Jinping, because he will only operate under Xi Jinping's shadow with some variation, with some, maybe, with a slightly different approach to the economy. But overall, he will maintain status quo. And also, he's too weak to to institute any major changes, right? But then for that reason, he's not going to last very long, because the Xi Jinping approach is not going to last long. So if Hu Chunhua, let's say, gets enough support from the people who oppose Xi Jinping, and if he has the courage, like if what Mr. Du described is, if he really hasn't lost that aspiration since childhood, to do something for his country, then I think he would make some drastic change, right? If he is truly, if he still has that spark in his heart, then he should do something for his country. And the number one thing he should do is end the CCP. Right? I mean, he should look at everything that has happened to his colleagues, to his mentor, who was forcibly removed from the stage. And then the only person, and remember, if you watch that video when Hu Jintao was removed from the stage, and then when the camera panned across the stage, everyone sat there with an expressionless face. I think Hu Chunhua was the only one sitting there with his arm folded and with a kind of a disgusted look on his face. I mean, he was the only one who actually had some expression on his face. So I don't know. Either way, the major changes, or the regime has to change. The CCP system has to collapse, because it's not sustainable. That's why people say Li will be the transition leader, and who has the potential to be the real leader if he does the right thing. But we'll see. If he doesn't, well, maybe someone else will, right? Everyone knows that some major changes are needed in China. They cannot go on like this. All right, I think that's all. That's all the color stickers I got. Okay. Wow, the poll, 50-50. Question, Johnny, is Xi fighting back to stay in power? It doesn't look like it. A few days ago, the PLA held a meeting. It was an important meeting. It was an all-hands meeting that required all the top, the commanders, and then the head of all the service branches to attend. It was a military theoretic, like a theoretic study, or they were trying to modernize military theories. It was an important meeting, and Xi Jinping, it was the first time they had such a meeting. And usually when they had when they have something new, when they rolled out a new initiative, the chairman of the CMC, of the Military Commission, should attend. And Xi Jinping always liked to attend these military all-hands meeting, but he didn't attend it. He missed it. And he only sent a letter. And stayed on the podium was Zhang Youxia and a lieutenant general. And the other vice chairman, He Weidong, wasn't even there. And this is very unusual, right? So it further confirms the claim that Zhang Youxia is controlling the PLA, and the other vice chairman, who's disliked within the PLA because he was promoted on such a fast track, only because he knew Xi Jinping and only because he was from Fujian. The only reason he was promoted to vice chairman was because of a war in Taiwan. So that was unprecedented. Xi Jinping missed an all-hands PLA leadership meeting. Not only he missed it, his other vice chairman also missed it. And Zhang Youxia sat at the podium with another lieutenant general who people think was from the Navy. And I think he was on the podium probably because he had to make some presentation or give a technical presentation. That was something. I can talk about that on the weekends, but on this weekend. All right, Silas. So how would you assess Xi's position now in aggregate? Is he just superficially in charge? I think so. Like I said in my last program, they haven't found anyone to replace him. And they're afraid by doing so, the regime may collapse, right? So they may wait until the 21st Party Congress, which will take place in 2 years. If nothing happens, if his health is good, if nothing happens, they may wait until the 2026. Yeah, no, 2027, 5 years, 2027, as long as his health is good. But if his health is not good, then one of these crown princes will have to take his place. But they do not want to, and also no one was interested in his job. Like the princelings, I think in one version of the rumors I heard, they asked if General Liu Yuan, the son of Liu Shaoqi, was interested in taking over, and he turned it down. I mean, who wants to? They understand the responsibility, unless you really have the vision, and unless you really feel the sense of responsibility, and unless you really want to do something to save your country. Otherwise, it's a very challenging job. And so they said no. So things may go on like this. He's the figurehead. He attends important meetings, but someone else is actually, a lot of the decisions may be made, I think, by people like Li Qiang. So, but I think there will be internal power struggles. There will be internal power struggle because it doesn't work. Because there will be power vacuum. You go from one guy who controls everything to this guy, going into a semi-retirement mode, and then the rest of the people, the rest of the gang is fighting for power. I think it would just make the regime more fragile and more chaotic. Because everything is built for a centralized, linear direction command system, and when that's broken, I don't think how the decisions will be made. It will be more chaotic. So nobody wants to own the economy and demographic problems. Funny how it's changed. Nobody wants to own it because it's broken. It cannot be fixed. The only way to fix that is to end the CCP. That's all, and start new. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be more chaotic. All right, that seems to be all. That's all the questions I got. Oh, here's one. Norbert Klotz. This all sounds like a big game. Who actually will make a decision? It sounds all like a guessing game with internal connections. None of the Chinese people really have a vote. No, they don't have a vote. All of this is operating behind the scene in a black box, and nothing is transparent. If it's not for diehard China observers like myself, who try to figure out what's going on by turning every stone and studying every line, we don't know what's happening, because they try to hide all of this from the public. They want to put on a facade that things are status quo. Xi Jinping is still running the show. But you see all these, nuances, these subtle differences, and you say, no, something is different, right? So it is a big game, but this is a dangerous game that they're playing, because the country is already dysfunctional, and this will expedite the process of disintegration, because like I said, at least you had one commander, you had one linear decision making, even though it's totally, inefficient and counterproductive, but at least you have one. Now you don't even have that one. So yeah, it's just, all right, let's see. Nick Fury, if Xi steps down, would he be allowed to retire gracefully and in peace? I don't know. It depends on in what fashion will he step down. Because from now until 2027 is a long time. Given the condition of China's economy, I don't think it will last until 2027. I mean, the regime is not going to last until the economy, the way the world is, I just don't think things will be peaceful from now until 2027. So if things are not peaceful, then he won't have a peaceful ending in 2027. So to answer your question is, it depends on what will happen from now until 2027. I think China's economy is the biggest threat to the regime. So Joseph Tan, oh, that's not addressed to me. So let's see. Oh, Brian Cobb. Lei, thanks for another great show. My question is off topic. Recent China-linked attack named Salt Typhoon breach of Verizon and AT&T is dangerous. U.S. media is not following story. Your thoughts? This kind of cyber attacks have been going on for a while, and our media is not reporting them. And our government, I think, only until recently has started to pay attention. So I think there should be more people to pay attention to those issues. Yeah, they should be addressed. Yeah. Didn't the U.S. arrest a Chinese engineer who worked for Verizon in Florida, and he sent customer data to the Chinese, and I think that person was indicted. Yeah, so large and small, invasions and attacks of various sizes and origins are happening. I really think the internet will be the next. I really think the internet is so fragile that the next war will not be a physical bomb, will be a war in cyberspace. And the internet will, like I always said, will break up into a few intranet, and therefore it's not an internet anymore. So, because the ignorance by our media and our government over those attacks will result in the breakdown of the internet. And when that happens, it will affect a lot of people's life. People will not be able to take money out of their banks. They will not be able to pay bills. I mean, our life is so dependent on internet. So it will be serious. So they can ignore that for now, but when it strikes, that's why I always suggest people to keep some cash at home, because the warning we had back a few months ago, remember there was a software update failure that resulted in the shutting down of government agencies and airports and airlines. Things like that will happen. I think will happen. And when it happens, when we don't have internet, some people, it happened in China during the floods. People cannot even go buy food because there was no internet. And you know how Chinese their life is so digitized. They don't use cash to buy things. They use their cell phone to buy food. So when the internet was shut down, people couldn't buy any food. Even though they went to the store, they saw food. They have no money because the cell phones are down. There was no signal. And when I read that, I'm like, okay, this will happen also in the West. If there's an internet meltdown, then we can't even buy food. So I think people should have some cash handy. Timothy Hall. Well, thank you, Tim. All right. Oh, I have Silas. Thank you. Good night. I like your hair. Okay, good. Good night. All right. That's all. That's all. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Stay tuned until this weekend. All right. I was going to talk about the relations between Russia, North Korea, and China, given what's happening at the borders between North and South Korea. I think it's fascinating to talk about what's actually happening between the three between China, Russia, and North Korea. I almost decided to talk about that tonight, but I thought it was better for me to finish my trilogy. So I may talk about that this weekend. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I see you later. Okay, bye-bye. Good night or good morning. Good day. Bye.